What's up, and welcome back to Interpreting the Stars, where today we're bringing it back to our James Bond preparation marathon with The Living Daylights. Now, I don't want to get ahead of myself too much here or give too much away, but when I first did this, when I first went through all the James Bond films, at this point I was losing hope. Every single movie was more or less getting cornier and cornier. Even Pierce Brosnan films had an unfortunate level of corn to them because they were in the 90s, and that entire decade was like Corn City. And for the most part, my favorite Bond has been Daniel Craig because unlike the others, he felt the most real, down-to-earth, and serious. But I initially loved Timothy Dalton because he felt so much like Daniel Craig during the classic age of James Bond. I mean, at least to me. But the problem is, I didn't remember anything about the plot of The Living Daylights. I didn't remember anything about the villain, or anything about the Bond girl. That's not a good sign, because that's typically what you found with the worst of Roger Moore's stuff. Maybe it's just a little bit foggy though. I guess we'll find out if this is still a sound film, and let's get cracking. This review is brought to you by the word of the day, sound, free from flaw, defect, or decay, aka a McDonald's Big Mac that's been sitting around for 5 years. The Living Daylights introduces us to Timothy Dalton's variation of the secret agent with a license to kill when he is tasked on providing protection to a defected KGB officer who claims the head of KGB is planning on butting Britain against America and is killing secret agents all over the world in the process. James Bond soon learns of a deeper conspiracy, however, dealing with drug, weapons, and diamond smuggling. Okay, so first things first, I think the main thing that everybody's going to be thinking about with this one is Timothy Dalton and how he played this role. This is a new James Bond, the third time they've recasted and fourth overall Bond. Now, I don't care if you were expecting something corny because that's what you've gotten up to this point, or if you expected something better because that's what you want to see from James Bond. Honestly, I don't even think it matters because what Timothy Dalton gives us feels perfect for James Bond. He's a little bit darker, he's a little bit edgier, and much more serious, which reminds me of Daniel Craig. But he also has elements of all the Bonds before him too. He's got the sharp intellect that Sean Connery was known for when he was the only agent that noticed the sniper in this movie was amateur. He had a little bit of Roger Moore in the things that he says because the pun jokes aren't completely gone. It's just that the movie doesn't completely revolve around them anymore. And heck, he's even got a little bit of George Lazenby in there as well, as he is a non-womanizing romantic guy. He builds the chemistry with this woman. He also respects the fact that she's spoken for, even though she's technically with a bad guy. I honestly love everything that Timothy Dalton has to offer and wish to God that he had more movies, because I can't just sit here and tell you that he's my favorite James Bond. I can't, because he was never given enough screen time to really showcase what he had to offer. He had 2 movies. 2, that's it. And this first one, The Living Daylights, he's the best thing about it. And everything else about it, it's okay. If I had to choose the absolute worst part of this film, without a doubt, I would say it's the plot, which is wholly unoriginal, unmemorable, and uninspired. It's kind of split into 2 different things. First, MI6 believes that this guy needs to be protected, that Bond must kill the sniper, that the head of KGB is this terrorist that needs to be taken down, all because of the claimed plot, which had to do with Russia doing something nefarious while pitting America and Britain against each other. Something that we've seen from James Bond movies several times already. And if that wasn't enough, you find out later that the real plot had something to do with drug, weapons, and diamond smuggling. Another plot that we've seen countless times from James Bond in the past. And you got 2 massive Bond tropes stacked on top of each other as the main plot here. And that's incredibly unfortunate. All that's really missing here is nuclear missiles. And guys, I love Timothy Dalton. I do. But this plot, it has me at odds with myself. But thankfully, even though it has a very lackluster and forgettable plot, it still has enough in the film to warrant rewatches. Timothy Dalton is truly an overlooked James Bond actor, and I actually dug the Bond girl here too, who was almost as mysterious as a woman in a Hitchcockian film. Plus, for the first time in the series, I was starting to see more actors that I recognized, which is great, and I honestly thought the cinematography in this one was really well done. The filming locations in the desert, fantastic, and even though the visuals were mostly just okay a majority of the time, the fact that it still had an amazing stunt work towards the end of the film, I gotta give visuals full points there for practical effects. So I think I can easily say that I forgive the fact that the story lacks, but it's hard not to recognize how perfect of a film it could have been with a better story. Let's take a look at the final score for a second. This is a well-made but still imperfect film that feels appropriate for James Bond. A majority of the time, I would say from a technical vantage point that everything was fine. It had moments of greatness, sure, but most of it was safe at an unbiased score of 76%, but I actually scored this a whole lot higher in the bias department than a majority of the James Bond films that I've seen thus far, with a score of 92%, and when we average the two together, we get a final score of 84%, 84 out of 100 possible stars, granting The Living Daylights with a final score of B. And if you're curious on where I rank this so far, it's in second place, right under On Her Majesty's Secret Service, but I still have quite a ways to go. I haven't even gotten to Daniel Craig, and I love it. Next time I'll be looking at License to Kill, which is Timothy Dalton's final outing as Bond, so make sure that you don't miss out, subscribe and hit the bell to be notified when I publish that. And as for now, tell me your thoughts on The Living Daylights in the comment section down below. Do you think I'm being way too fair here? Way too generous? If so, what's your thoughts on Timothy Dalton? Also, check out my previous Bond reviews on my channel, and until next time, peace out.